The concept of opportunity cost. Introduction. Conventionally, humans want to exceed the available resources to satisfy them. Resources are always scarce in an economy, and to satisfy human needs, it becomes imperative to make choices concerning which needs are to be satisfied first and which ones are to be deferred or forgone. This introduces the concept of opportunity cost to show the value of the needs that need to be satisfied first and those that need to be postponed to a later date. This study will analyze the concept of opportunity cost and how individual consumers, firms, and governments utilize it to allocate scarce economic resources. Opportunity cost. By definition, opportunity cost is simply the cost of foregone alternatives. The cost of the best alternative has been sacrificed to spend the available resources on a certain need. Individual consumers, firms, and governments use this concept to ensure that the available resources are used efficiently. It measures the cost of what has been foregone in financial or monetary terms. According to Frederick, Novemsky, Wang, Thar, and Nowlis, consumers always face the issue of opportunity cost when making purchasing decisions. For example, a student may need 2 business textbooks and an economics textbook, which cost $20 each, yet his or her parent gives him only $20 to buy the textbooks. Given this scenario, the students cannot afford to buy the 2 textbooks simultaneously since the amount of money they have can only purchase 1 textbook. The student, therefore, has to make a prioritized choice on which textbook to buy first and which one to defer to a future date. He or she has to apply the concept of scarcity and choice since he or she has more than one need to satisfy with just a few resources, $20. If he chooses to buy a business textbook, the opportunity cost will be an economics textbook, which he or she will do without for the time being. If he happens to buy an economics textbook, the opportunity cost will be the business textbook that he or she has to sacrifice in order to buy the economics textbook. Therefore, the student has no option other than to forego one of his or her needs in order to satisfy the other. The concept of opportunity cost also applies in government activities, where the government is faced with so many public needs yet the available resources to satisfy the needs are limited. For instance, a government may need to finance free university education and provide cheap and quality healthcare services. The government is required to finance these 2 public needs, yet the funds to simultaneously meet the 2 expenses are unavailable. The government is, therefore, required to postpone one of the needs in order to finance the other. Thus, opportunity cost will be the cost of the public needs that have to be postponed in order to satisfy the other. According to Devadas and One-Gun, firms also have limited production factors, which need to be allocated efficiently to maximize profit. From the above analyses, the concept of opportunity cost is very important when individual consumers, firms, and governments are making decisions on how to allocate scarce resources at their disposal in order to fulfill their endless needs. Since production resources do not increase with the increase in the number of needs that need to be satisfied, increased spending in one area means decreased spending in another area. This allocation of limited resources is well illustrated by the production possibility curve, which shows how limited resources are allocated to varying needs in the economy. Production Possibility Curve, PPC. A production possibility curve is a curve or a graph that shows how limited factors of production can be allocated between 2 commodities. The curve illustrates the efficient production level of 2 commodities using a fixed factor of production. For example, governments can use the PPC curve to determine the most efficient way to allocate limited inputs, capital and labor, in the production of 2 types of commodities, maize and motor vehicles. PPC will show what will happen to the other commodity if the government increases production of one commodity. For instance, if the government increases production of motor vehicle, the PPC will show what will happen to the production maize. Therefore, PPC will help the government to know the most efficient level of production. Conclusion. The concept of opportunity cost is therefore very important while making microeconomic policies. Economic resources are always scarce and human needs are ever increasing, such that individual consumers, firms, and governments have no option but to make choices on how to allocate the available limited resources more efficiently. Policymakers have to sacrifice or forego some needs to fulfill the most pressing ones. Governments have to consider and prioritize all its public expenditures in order to ensure that the scarce resources are allocated in the most maximizing way to the economy. The same concept will also apply to all firms that need to allocate inputs in the most efficient way in order to maximize profits.